There are fictional mothers who make you think, okay, she's complicated. There are fictional mothers who make you think, I understand that you have your own trauma, but ma'am. And then there are the fictional mothers who have you sitting in your house wondering whether Child Protective Services accepts calls for people who do not exist. Because some of these women, I have questions. Today, we are talking about 6 fictional mothers who frustrated me, angered me, confused me, and in a couple of cases, wanted me to reach through the pages and collect their children myself. And let me say this before we get started. They are not all terrible in the same way. Some of them burden their daughters with things they should never have had to carry. Some were controlling. Some were manipulative. Some betrayed their children in ways I still cannot get over. And one of these women might actually be the final boss of the terrible fictional mothers. If you read The Darkest Child, you already know who I'm talking about.
Slow, turn the page, find your peace in this space, honey and prose. Welcome home.
Hey Book Nook, welcome back to Honey and Prose, where we talk about stories, softness, and the emotional experience of reading. And this video came about because I realized something. Some of the characters I remember most clearly are not characters that I loved. Sometimes an author writes somebody so well that you remember them because of how deeply they got on your nerves. And mothers in fiction are particularly interesting because that relationship comes with so much expectation. We expect mothers to protect, to nurture, to be the person a child can come to. So when a fictional mother does the exact opposite, it hits differently. We are starting with the mothers who frustrated me, and by the end, we are going to be in there is no defending this woman territory. There will be spoilers about the character relationships and some plots, so consider yourself warned. Now, let's start with Mame. So, the mother in Mame frustrated me because Maddie was already carrying so much. Maddie is a young woman trying to figure out who she is while carrying adult responsibilities that have taken up a huge portion of her life. And that is what bothered me about her relationship with her mother. There are some children who get to become adults gradually. They go out, they make mistakes, they figure themselves out. And then there are the children who become responsible because somebody has to. Maddie felt like that person. She was carrying family responsibility while also trying to figure out what she wanted from her own life. And I remembered wanting to say, can somebody take care of her for a minute? Because when you have a child who is responsible, dependable, capable, people can start treating that capability like an unlimited resource. She'll handle it. She'll figure it out. She'll be fine. And meanwhile, that person is quietly exhausted. That is what frustrated me here. Not necessarily because I saw Maddie's mother as some cartoon villain. I didn't. But I absolutely felt the imbalance. And sometimes that kind of mother-daughter relationship is actually harder to talk about because there isn't always one giant horrible thing you can point to. It's the accumulation, the responsibility, the emotional burden, the feeling that the daughter has somehow become responsible for keeping things functioning while still being expected to figure out her own life. And I wanted more softness for Maddie. I wanted someone to look at her and say, you don't have to hold all of this. So this mother gives us our first category. The mother who let her daughter carry too much. And unfortunately, we are only warming up. Now, there's Sloane's mother in Restore Me. Because the way I remember her, I kept getting the feeling that she liked the idea of having a daughter far more than she actually enjoyed mothering one. You know, those people who seem to love the parts of motherhood that look good, the pregnancy, the attention, the image, the cute baby. But then that baby grows into an actual person, a person with needs, personality, feelings, opinions, and suddenly they are much less interested. That was the feeling I got from Sloane's mother. And then on top of that, she was also critical. Nothing Sloane did ever seemed to be enough. And I kept thinking, how do you emotionally neglect this girl and still find the energy to criticize her? Pick a struggle. Because if you weren't there pouring into your child, where exactly did you get the audacity to constantly point out what you thought was wrong with her? That kind of parenting gets under my skin because criticism from a parent lands differently. Your mother is one of the first people who teaches you how to see yourself. So if the message is constantly, you're not doing this right, or you should be more like this, or why aren't you this way? Eventually, that voice can become your own internal voice. And that made me sad for Sloane because sometimes you can grow up, build a life, become successful and independent, and still have that little part of you wondering why you were never quite good enough for the person who was supposed to love you first. So Sloane's mother gets the mother who seemed more interested in the image of motherhood than the work of loving her actual child. And ma'am, I did not care for you. Now, let's talk about Mary B. Addison's mother from Allegedly, because this woman, I spent the entire book side-eyeing her. Mary was only around 9 years old when she was accused of unaliving a baby. By the time we meet her in the present timeline, she is older, living in a group home type of environment after everything that happened with her case. And Mary keeps trying to tell people, I didn't do it, my mother did. Now, Mary's mother, from almost the beginning, I didn't trust her. Something about her made every alarm go off in my head. And Mary is trying desperately to get somebody to believe her. She wants her mother to admit what happened. She wants the truth to finally come out. And when Mary tries to push her mother toward telling the truth, her mother's response is basically, no, you need to understand that your actions caused all of this. And I remember thinking, ma'am, she was your child. What are we doing? That is your daughter. And what made it even more frustrating is that Mary became pregnant. Now, the stakes here are completely different. Mary wasn't simply looking backwards anymore. She was trying to create a future. She wanted a chance to build a life for herself and her baby. And I wanted that for her. I wanted somebody to listen. I wanted somebody to say, maybe we need to take another look at what happened to this girl. So I spent part of the book furious with her mother. But because this is Tiffany D. Jackson, nothing stays simple. Every time I got comfortable thinking, Mary's mother did this. I know she did. Something would happen that made me go back and look at Mary and go, girl, tell me the truth. So this mother also contributed to one of the most uncomfortable parts of the entire reading experience. Mary desperately needed someone she could trust, and I didn't feel like her mother was that person. That bothered me more than almost anything. Because if the whole world doubts your child, shouldn't home at least be the place where she knows someone is in her corner? Instead, Mary's relationship with her mother made everything feel more unstable. So she gets the mother who made me question everybody, including her own child. And I still don't like you. Now, we are moving from frustrating mothers into, ma'am, you are actively making your child's life worse. Margaret White, Carrie's mother. This woman used fear, shame, control, and religious extremism to make Carrie afraid of her own body and afraid of herself. And what makes Carrie so heartbreaking to me is that Carrie already had enough to deal with outside of her house. She was bullied, humiliated, excluded. She was already a vulnerable child trying to navigate a world where people seemed to almost delight in hurting her. Home should have been the safe place. Home should have been where Carrie could finally exhale. Instead, she goes home to Margaret. And suddenly, the one person who should be helping this girl understand herself is teaching her that normal parts of herself is shameful, that her body is wrong, that her feelings are wrong, that she is somehow spiritually dangerous simply for existing. And I kept thinking, this child has nowhere to go. That is what bothers me the most about Margaret. The cruelty outside of the home is terrible, but Carrie could have survived some of that differently if she had gone home every evening to someone saying, they are wrong about you. You are loved. You are safe here. Instead, Margaret reinforces the very idea that Carrie is somehow wrong. And then the people wonder why Carrie explodes. Now, am I saying what Carrie ultimately does is okay? No. She burned up a whole school. But am I saying this child was failed repeatedly by nearly every adult who should have protected her? Absolutely. Margaret White gets the mother who turned home into another place her child had to survive. And that one makes me angry because Carrie needed a mother. What she got was another form of tormentor. And then Corinne Darlinganger. Wow. Because there are bad mothers, and then there are mothers whose betrayal is almost worse because the children keep believing mommy is coming back. Flowers in the Attic is one of those stories that becomes more horrifying the longer you think about the children's perspective. These children are hidden away, separated from a normal life, confused, afraid, and initially they are trusting their mother. Because of course they are. That's mom. If mom says there's a reason for this, there must be a reason. If mom says it's temporary, it must be temporary. If mom says she is going to fix things, you believe her. And that is what makes Corinne's choices so disgusting to me. Those children were operating from trust. She was operating from self-interest. And every time her priorities moved further away from her children, I wanted to say, they are still there. How are you going about your life knowing your children are hidden away? How do you get comfortable? How do you freaking sleep? How do you start making choices for yourself while those children are waiting for you? That is the part that gets me. Not just the neglect, betrayal, because neglect from a stranger is terrible. Betrayal from the person that you trust most, that leaves an entirely different wound. Those children kept believing in their mother longer than their mother deserved, and that is heartbreaking. So Corinne gets the mother who betrayed the trust that her children placed in her. And if you read this book when you were younger and then revisit as an adult, like I did, wow, because adulthood makes some of these parenting decisions look even worse. And now we have arrived. Roselle Quinn, the final boss. Because some mothers on this list frustrate me. Some made me angry. Some made horrible choices. Roselle created an entire household where her children had to figure out how to survive her. The Darkest Child centers Tangi May and her family, and Roselle is cruel, manipulative, abusive, and constantly playing her children against circumstances none of them should have had to navigate. She plays favorites. She controls. She humiliates. And Tangi is expected to carry responsibilities far beyond what a child should ever have to carry. And this is where my patience for well, maybe she had a difficult life too, conversation starts running out. Because I can understand that someone has trauma. I can understand that people are shaped by what happened to them. I can even understand that people sometimes repeat what we're taught. But understanding why someone became harmful does not mean we have to pretend that the harm didn't happen. At some point, children deserve protection, and Roselle's children needed protection from their own mother. That book made me angry because children learn very quickly how to survive the adults around them. They learn, when can I speak? When should I stay quiet? What mood is she in? Who is she angry at today? And how do I keep from becoming the target? No child should have to become that skilled at reading danger inside their own home. And with Tangi especially, I remember feeling like, somebody please get this child out of there. Roselle didn't just feel to protect her children. She became part of what they needed protection from. So yes, Roselle Quinn is the final boss. I have things to say about everybody on this list, but Roselle, we might need a whole separate meeting. You know what's interesting though? Putting these women together made me realize that a well-written mother does not have to be a good mother. In fact, some of the mothers that I remember most clearly in fiction are the ones who made me angry. And that's because the author made the relationship matter. I cared about Maddie carrying too much. I cared about the way Sloane's mother's criticism affected her. I wanted Mary to have somebody she could trust. I wanted Carrie to have somewhere safe to go. I wanted those children from Flowers in the Attic to realize they deserve better. And I wanted Tangi as far away from Roselle as humanly possible. The emotional reaction only works because somewhere along the way, I started caring about the child on the other side of that relationship. And maybe that is why complicated mother-child relationships work so well in fiction. Because everyone understands what the relationship is supposed to mean. So when an author turns it upside down, we feel the absence of what should have been there. Safety, acceptance, protection, softness. A place to come home to. And when those things are missing, sometimes the absence becomes one of the loudest parts of the story. Okay, Book Nook crew, I know I have not exhausted the list of terrible fictional mothers. So I want to hear from you. Who is the fictional mother who had you saying, ma'am, this is your child? Tell me the character, tell me the book, and most importantly, tell me what she did. Because if she's bad enough, we may have to do a part 2. And if you enjoyed sitting here judging fictional parenting decisions with me, please like this video, share it with your favorite reading friend, and subscribe to Honey Prose. Around here, we talk about the characters we love, the characters we miss, and apparently now the characters whose children we would like to personally come collect. Now, go drink something warm, pick up something good, and I will see you in the next chapter.